How long do you think it takes for a recruiter to say yay or nay to your resume? Well, according to a 2018 eye tracking study, the exact answer is 7.4 seconds, which is why it is so important that you are selecting the correct resume layout. In fact, this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see my clients make, especially when it comes to those with an employment gap. So in this video, we're going to break down the 3 most common resume layouts and how you can determine which one is the best for you. I'm Laura, and I've been on both sides of the interviewee table, and now I'm putting my insights to work for you. First up is the chronological resume. Now, this is the one you're probably most familiar with because it's the one that most people use. It simply has the summary at the top, followed by your work experience in reverse chronological order, meaning your most recent work experience is at the top, followed by your next most recent, and so on and so on. And then towards the bottom, you're gonna have your education and your skills. Second is the functional resume. Now, with the functional resume, instead of the emphasis being placed on the work experience, the emphasis is placed on your skills and abilities. So the layout of the functional resume still starts with a summary, but then is immediately followed by skills and abilities. And this is going to be the bulk of the resume. After that, you're generally going to find education and certifications, training. And then the work experience will be all the way towards the bottom. Now, the work experience is not going to actually list out specific bullet points. Instead, it'll just have your position held and your company. Sometimes people will include dates, other times they leave them off. And third is the hybrid resume, which is, as you guessed it, a mix between a chronological resume and a functional resume. Now, this one is also going to start with a summary, and then it is going to be followed by skills and abilities. But rather than that be the sole focus, immediately after the skills and abilities, you're going to go into your work experience just as you would with a chronological resume. And then towards the bottom, you're gonna have your education and training and certifications. So how do you determine which is best for you? As a former recruiter who has seen thousands of resumes, I'm gonna go ahead and say to steer clear of the functional resume because it leaves the recruiter trying to figure things out. And I remember, the recruiter is only looking at your resume for a few seconds, and anything that you're doing to confuse them will have them just simply move on. This leaves the chronological and the hybrid resume. So how do you choose? Well, if you just Googled how long of a career break would lead me to use a hybrid resume, it would say 6 months to a year. And I do not agree with that. In my professional experience, if you have a break that's 3 years or less, go ahead and use the chronological resume. If you are inching to 5+ years, I would suggest using the hybrid resume. And here's my logic with that. A career break of a couple years really is not that big of a deal, especially if you are able to put bullet points under that career break section that speak to the job that you are applying for. Once you do that, it'll just flow like any other resume. Now, if you are getting to a longer gap of time, like I said, 5+ years, that's a good time to explore the hybrid resume. You are still going to need to put your bullet points underneath your career break, but it does draw attention to your other skills and abilities that you might want to have featured rather than the first thing they see is a career break. Regardless of which one you pick, you are still going to need to come up with 2 or 3 bullet point items to put on your resume to show that you have been developing your skills and abilities, which you have, because a career break doesn't mean you're just sitting on the couch. You're still learning and growing, but you're gonna need to add those to your resume. Once you've decided if you want to go with a hybrid or a chronological resume, I always recommend that you have human eyes review them because you're going to want to make sure that they flow, that they make sense, and that they do not confuse somebody who will be looking at your resume. Good luck, you've got this. And if you have any other questions about resumes, formatting, understanding how to balance your career break, just put them in the comments below. All right, I'll see you in the next video.